All right, fact check this podcast, and I'm back with Don for some ways of the world. And like I teased in the show title and the description, we'll talk about fireworks safety and how to keep all of your appendages intact by the time this whole 4th of July weekend is over. But we'll get to that in a little bit. First, we're going to talk about some half-ass serious stuff. But before we do that, Don, how you been?
Good, man. Life, I mean, I don't know, 20 minutes before or whenever I sent you that message, half the roof of my coop blew off, but otherwise pretty good.
Do y'all get a lot of like really straight line winds and just like every time we get a storm here, which is really weird because we actually have lots of trees and shit around here, but every time we get a storm here, it's just the strongest, just straight line winds every fucking time. And even like 30 miles south of here, it's nowhere near that bad. And I guess because it's right on the river seems to break wind up. And this is the first time I've ever like not lived right on a river. Like I've literally my entire life lived on a river everywhere I've been, which is insane thinking about it. But now that I've think about it, this is literally the first time in my life that I'm not on a fucking river, and we get such strong winds. It just like there's always every time there's a storm, there's a tree somewhere that just gets completely ripped out of the ground. The last one that we had, we've got a neighbor about half a mile down the road that still has 2 cars underneath the tree that got ripped out of the ground. Like they haven't even bothered to try cutting the tree up and getting the cars out from under. They've just like said fuck it and moved on with life.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna always feel like it.
Yeah.
So I basically live at the base of the Rockies, and that causes 2 problems, right? The Rockies are actually kind of an L, right? So this is the Rocky Mountains portion that everybody thinks of, and then it kicks down into central Texas, right? And I live right in the center of the L, and so I get wind off the mountains and wind from the coast that then travels up the mountain range. And so I get 2 directional wind, but generally only 1 at a time. When it's 2 at a time, that's why we're called Tornado Alley.
Weather's a lot of fun. I don't think I'm really enjoying not living close to a river. I never really put value into how much a river, how much, that moving body of water breaks up storms and stuff like that.
Or just makes your life better in general.
Right. Yeah. It's so this is an interesting new experience for me. I hadn't really thought about that prior to just now. It is like when I lived in Arkansas, I was on the White River, and then when I lived in Mississippi, I was either on the Mississippi River or the Yazoo River. When I lived in Pennsylvania, I was on whatever that fucking river is that runs right there by Trenton, New Jersey. Like everywhere that I've here, all of my time here in Indiana, we're right there on the Ohio River, and now I'm finally like away from a river, and I don't like
it. It's all right. I had the same feeling about legitimate mountains. I live at the base of the Rockies insofar as they're like, I don't know, 10, 15 miles away or something like that. And I live in that part of Texas where you could stand on a soapbox and like see the other side of the earth. And every now and again, it's like, fuck.
Well, speaking of seeing things and looking at things from a different perspective, let's look at the VP picks for the Republican Party. So this poll came out over the weekend. This is from Interactive Polls. It's Polymarket, which is an odds maker. And you can go to any of these links and vote for the one that you think has the best odds and maybe even win some money. But they currently have Doug Burgum, I guess after this year, he will be the former governor of North Dakota, current sitting governor of North Dakota. Doug Burgum is polling at 40%, which is a new high for him. J.D. Vance is polling at 15, Ben Carson at 14, Tim Scott at 10, Ramaswamy and Youngkin are both at 8, Marco Rubio at 6, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders is coming in at 3%. If you click on the links, you can look at the polls themselves. There are a bunch of other candidates also listed, but these are the ones that between the two different polls, this is where their kind of odds shake out. What are your thoughts on who will be and who should be the VP pick for Donald Trump?
The will be is, I think, is still super up in the air. The thing about VPs is they kind of don't matter, right? They're gonna sit around, thumb and ass for 4 years. They're occasionally going to give a speech on how school lunch is better because the president's wife did something. Not even them. And so I have unironically no thoughts on like Burgum, which is wild because, you know, usually I see that sort of thing coming a mile away. But the who it will be, I think in the end, it's going to end up a loyalty test this time around. I think that's what Trump took from Pence. And so if we're aggregating on any other dynamic, I feel like we're going to do it wrong. Who that is so hard to tell because he's so freaking weird about it. But who it should be, man, a stuffed doll, right? That's who his VP should be. The only other option here is somebody that is so cancerous to like JD Vance would be a great pick solely for this line, right? Because the left hates him. And that would be that kind of pick would be the best kind of pick. I know that's like dancing out of both answers, but Matt Gaetz also good for never going to happen. No. But like, you know, how great would it be, A, for the memes, and B, because, you know, like, I'm going to get assassination insurance. My VP is Matt Gaetz, right? And so, you know, you go up there and like everybody's looking around like, oh, God, we can't kill him now. And realistically, that's probably the best thing he could do.
So a lot of the, as we were talking about before we started, a lot of the people that I've seen really having conversations about this and talking about this are people that I've gotten to know since I got into the libertarian politics sort of stuff. So I think you and I may have talked about it before, but maybe not. So my kind of party politics background, I was very active as a Republican in the Kentucky GOP, in college Republican groups, all of that good fun stuff when I was in college. I was the youngest representative at the Kentucky Republican State Convention in 2004 ever. I did all of the and again in 2006. So in 4 I was the youngest, and then in 6 I was the youngest ever, and then in 6 I was the youngest there, because I just kept going. Like I got really involved in all the politics stuff and got to see the inner workings of stuff. And then with McCain's nomination in 08 and then Romney's nomination in 12, I said, holy shit, this is fucking useless. I'm out. And I stopped being involved. I stopped paying attention. I stopped giving a single solitary shit until Trump came on the scene in late 15 and into the debates and stuff through 16. And I was like, oh, this is like, I still didn't really care, but I was like, this is fun. Like I can at least
the entertainment values off the charts.
Right. I can at least get down with how fun this shit is and start paying attention again. And then, of course, that, you know, works its way up to all of the insanity that happens for the entirety of Trump's administration, and then 2020. And that's when I started getting involved with like the libertarian side of stuff. And because we had a good libertarian candidate running for governor in 2020 here in Indiana. So I got involved and I started to see like the very drastic differences between Libertarian Party politics and, for lack of a better term, real party politics. And it's cool, it's fun, but it's the Libertarians are LARPing as political, while the Republicans and Democrats are actually playing the game of politics. And it's interesting to see it from those different perspectives. So like a lot of people that I'm seeing talking about this are like really, really big on like, it should be Vivek. It should be Vivek. He's the one that should be the VP pick. And I'm like, no, like that. Okay. That's an emotional response because you want somebody who's like, yeah, fuck the system kind of guy. But that's not how VP works. Like you have to understand that to be the pick for vice president for either major political party, you have a whole bunch of boxes that have to be checked. And Burgum checks all of those boxes. And he even, to a large extent, since the debates and since he officially ended his presidential campaign, not that it was ever like super serious.
Yeah, the 8 minutes he was running for president.
Right. He was like super duper outsider to begin with. So it's not like it was a real serious campaign. But from the time it ended, he immediately went into being an advisor with Trump's team. So like he's kind of gotten himself in there and established himself. But he checks all the boxes because like one of the boxes that you want is former governor or senator, because they're going to be the president of the Senate. So it needs to be somebody that's had experience dealing with legislators and being able to manage a room of screaming morons.
Yes.
A governor or a former senator who has been in that room and understands what it's like. That's why you don't see a whole lot of House of Representatives end up being a VP. It's usually a senator or a governor, because they need to be able to handle that room. And the Senate is different from the House. So that's one of those
cackling retards for sure.
Right. So like that's one of those boxes that like Burgum checks that box. You want them to be like stupid rich, or at least have some level of influence and connection to super rich people that they can turn money when necessary. That's why you see Kamala Harris has not necessarily the money herself, but the influence. She has the right connections. Also, former senator.
She has swallowed circumstances to make sure that she knows people. That's fair.
So it's also why Pence, even though Pence himself does not have a particularly high net worth, he had the right connections from his time in Indiana politics that he could move money where it needed to be. Again, also former governor. It's why I like Burgum over like a DeSantis, because Burgum is not seeking re-election. This is his last year. This is his last year. So I like him over like DeSantis or Vance, because you don't have to replace him. He's already, like, his replacement is already running and going to win handily. Like there's you don't have to worry about that. Like Vance, in Ohio, that's not necessarily a guaranteed spot. Florida, DeSantis, probably not a super threat, but DeSantis captures a whole lot of energy that somebody replacing him may not. So you don't want to upset the balance of power that you've already got going. Burgum doesn't disrupt that, and then he's not like
the thing about DeSantis is I think it would be, as is traditionally the case, the end of his political career, and that over most things is the reason it shouldn't be DeSantis, right? Because you can Donald Trump Jr., then his other kid at me all you want, but that's probably not going to happen. I know the internet loves its memes, and maybe at least one of them gets there at some point. But until then, it would be pretty good if 28 rolled around and there was somebody who was not, Mike Pence to run for president.
Right. and that's why I'm not big on DeSantis for that pick. And again, like, you know, you've got all the boxes that need to be checked. I told Toad on Twitter, he was commenting on this. I was like, the thing that you need to understand is that the VP pick is not meant to appeal to you. The VP pick is the pick that the party is making to appeal to the people who actually pull the strings and make the decisions. This is somebody that's going to be professional, somebody that's going to have money, somebody that's going to be able to conduct themselves well, somebody that checks all the right boxes, so that the people who actually have the power can be like, okay, we can trust that at the end of the day, regardless of how much of a wild card or literally brain dead the president is, this person can at least get the job done that we need them to get done when it comes to moving shit through the legislative
House
process.
and Senate. Yeah,
there we go. And Burgum, like, he's the
so presuming
correct pick, not necessarily the best, but the correct.
No. Presuming that you're shooting for a Pence who is nowhere near as much of a faggot as Pence, I'm sold on the premise. I am unsure, and I mean that honestly. I am unsure where Trump sits on that front. Because about half the time he shows up with like, we're going to burn everything down. Nah! Right. And the other half of the time he's like, oh, but also Lindsey Graham is such a great guy. And so I don't know what you're burning down if Lindsey Graham is a great guy. I feel like there's nothing that is actually on that target list. And so would it be better for him to pick somebody else? Sure. But I think most of the like, we want Vivek thing is people not having any idea how the government works, right? You want Vivek in a cabinet position, right? Even if what you do is you move Vivek from cabinet position to cabinet position, just like, you know, the meme of the Grim Reaper going through the doors. Fine, do that. That's where you actually want that guy. Because if you want the Department of Education to stop being a giant, horrific shithole, either by nature of getting rid of it or by nature of turning it into something that might actually be functional, this is a pretty good place for Vivek. And, you know, look, you can think whatever you want of that guy, and I know how the internet is, but that is true, right? Like, hey, your mission is to turn this federal edifice of heaping garbage pile into something that's functional, and that will happen.
And that's like Ben Carson shows up on some of the lists. Actually, he's third place on this poll. Carson is perfect for a cabinet position, maybe even for the Department of Education. Like, he is the right guy to be in any other position other than vice president. Like, and I was all for Ben Carson in the 16. Like, he was my personal favorite candidate in the 16 primaries. Like, he was the one that I thought was the better candidate out of the field.
So he has the same problem now that he did then, though, right? Which is that he's relatively passive.
Yes.
And that by itself, I think, will rule him out of cabinet positions. Should it? No. But if even half of what's being discussed here by Trump is actually going to happen, then he is likely going in there guns a-blazing. At least that's the hope.
What was his Carson was in charge of the HUD, I think. I'm pretty sure which, I mean, that seems just like a smidge racist, but at the same time, he did really good with the position. So, like, maybe it's not. Yeah, you know, Surgeon General might not be a bad spot for him. It's not one of those positions that he necessarily needs to be aggressive in. So, if you get the right people in other cabinet positions.
So the thing I want out of Carson before I say yay to Surgeon General things is like a 4-hour conference on his thoughts on COVID. In fact, that's what I want from anybody who is going to be Surgeon General. And at the end of it, the last hour of it needs to be, so what are your thoughts on bird flu? Right? Now, I'm never going to get that, but that's what I want from whoever goes into that position.
That wouldn't be bad. Yeah. And who knows? Maybe that's maybe that will be some of the criteria that Trump will use for, like, you don't want to end up in the same position that you were. Like, he can't admit that he made the wrong decisions for COVID. Like, I don't think that if he would just say, yeah, there were a lot of things that we fucked up, there were a lot of things we shouldn't have done, we took bad advice from the CDC, so on and so forth, it would probably really open the doors up for a lot of people who are still holding grudges about that. But he can't and he won't do that. So, at the very least, like, behind the scenes, be vetting the people who are going to be in those types of positions to make sure that you don't have the same mistake second time around, if it came back around.
See, this is I think the problem of being on the internet, right? Go ask people the top 10 things they think when they think Donald Trump, right? And I would be real impressed if COVID or Operation Warp Speed was even in the list, right? Economy, border wall, destroys the left, right? All this kind of stuff will probably be in there. Rich definitively is going to be in there. And if you are online, and God forbid, as both of us are, in any way attached to libertarians on the internet, the only thing you ever hear about Trump, oh my God, but it's locked. She did the vaccine, it's terrible. And okay, you're not wrong. And I know I'm not all that interested in the technicality that is, well, we can't forcibly lock down states when he's overtly advertising for it. That said, again, just go stand down at, local Starbucks even, right? Now, if you stand at the local Starbucks, the 10 things you're going to hear about Trump is basically that he's Hitler 9 times and that he's gay or something for the last one, right? Secretly gay. You might hear about some bone spurs and something else. But even then, right, what you're not going to hear is COVID.
That's a whole different thing. But it's funny you brought that up. I went and ate at a nice little, interestingly enough, the entire staff and everybody running it was Mexican, but it was a little like breakfast joint, and they didn't do any like Mexican type of breakfast foods. It was pretty American. So I was really confused. But perfect. I needed somewhere to kill about an hour, and there was this little breakfast joint like right at the end of the little shopping strip that I was like sitting in the parking lot of while I was waiting for the place that I actually needed to go to open. So I was like, what the fuck? I'd rushed out of the house this morning. I'll go get a cup of coffee and see what they got. And I had some pancakes, and it was good. But there were a couple like old dudes sitting in there, and they look like, just your average run of the mill old dudes. And I'm just sitting there by myself, minding my own business. And I happened to overhear their conversation, and both of them are talking about their gay daughters at IU and how Trump is going to destroy the country and everything. I'm like, dude, he hasn't been in office for like 4 years. What the fuck are you talking about? Also, like, and like going on about how we need to support Ukraine and all this other stuff. I was like, oh my God, you two are like the reason that we're in such bad shape as a country to begin with. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? It was just like, I mean, when they lead in with the one of them was talking about his daughter and her girlfriend at IU, and the other one was like, oh yeah, my daughter and her girlfriend both go to IU too. I'm like, God damn, you both have faggy daughters at IU. Like, maybe there's a common theme here. Like, I don't know. Don't send your daughters to IU. I'd say that. I got IU season football tickets because, they play Washington and Michigan and got some decent home games. And I got really good seats for a good price. And I'm really excited about taking my kids to some football games. So neither here nor there.
Oh, man. Well, Well, welcome. You know, chat is already in full swing. Boomers hate Trump. I don't get it. Well, look, boomers still watch the evening news, and the evening news everywhere will tell you that Trump is going to destroy Social Security. And if you are a boomer, you are collecting Social Security.
Oh, did you see? Did you see the Kamala Harris post that said that Trump will end Social Security if he comes into office?
Community note.
The big community note that like completely debunked the whole thing. That was great. And then Elon like reposted it. It was like, you would think that the people who that whatever intern is running these political accounts would know that they can't like just objectively lie about this stuff. That was fucking great.
Oh man. Well, they're used to it, right? You know, even the political interns are getting advice from the people who are like, oh, just keep saying, you know, it's the party line, just keep saying it. And if there was an intern with any balls, they'd be like, if I put this on Twitter, all right, the community note is going to be a dictionary. All right, all right, you probably don't know what that is, but it's going to be all of Ta-Nehisi Coates' combined work and then some. I mean, that is true. That is to a mortal certainty. That is true.
For those who are listening to this later on, not actually watching the video, to be the chat says, to be fair, every girl who goes to college has an experimental phase. Young Marines love this phase. And for the females in the audience, I'll post a poll on the podcast itself. I was in college. Did you have a experimental phase? And
for the female in chat,
I actually have I think last time I checked, it was about 14% of my listener audience is female. So I think I'm doing pretty good considering that like most of the time on my show, especially if I'm doing a solo episode, I'm just absolutely like shitting on women nonstop. So like to still have 14% of the audience female, I think I'm doing pretty good.
The woman in chat has chimed in.
How do you get your wife to watch, listen to, and participate in the stuff that you do? Mine will not have anything to do with it, which also kind of gives me some leeway to talk shit about her from time to time and say things about women that I definitely wouldn't say in front of her, because there is a 0% chance she is ever going to listen to anything that I say or put out. Like, even if I'm like, hey, check this out, this was like really good, you can use this to like talk to your dad about certain stuff and whatever, because her dad is a very like neocon boomer type. I'm like, you could talk to him about some of this stuff and like kind of explain to it. She's like, nope, I'm not going to do that. Like, you can do it. I'm not doing it. She objectively refuses to listen to or watch anything that I ever do. Like, even the stuff that she participates in, like, because I'll like con her into doing a like a late night drinking stream where we're all just like hanging out and shooting the shit and stuff. And even then, like, she's not watching or listening to any of that after the fact. Once it's done, it's done. She moves on from it. Like,
well, I think you've answered your own question, right? I can talk some shit about her. No, I can't. Also, I told her to do it, so
there it is. See, my wife keeps asking me. She keeps asking me when I'm going to stop doing it. She's like, I thought this was just a phase that you'd have grown out of by now. It's like, yeah, maybe.
I'm thinking about it. I'll get there.
It's like, if you haven't noticed, I'm still a 12-year-old at heart. I haven't grown out of much, so it's going to take a lot longer than you're expecting.
I've grown out of shoes, and that's it.
All right. Do we want to talk about like serious politics stuff anymore? I think we've beat the vice presidential thing to death as much as I care to. There's a big difference between who you think should be and who is the correct pick. And if you take nothing else away from this, vice president, the pick for vice president is purely political. It has nothing to do with popularity. It has nothing to do with the candidate as far as like what they represent. It is purely politics.
Maybe that's the thing to discuss left, right? Discuss remaining, I guess. Left has certain connotations when you say that next to politics. So Not every position is the most popular person on Twitter needs to go there. Okay, I don't, I don't like. Now, this might be, and speaking of other good places for Vivek, press secretary would be hilarious. Though, again, I return to like, right, the Matt Gateses and the JD Vances, right? Because I would pay money to watch Matt Gates be press secretary. You're all a bunch of fucking douchebags. Next question. It'd just be perfect.
Like, you're ugly. I'm not taking questions from you. Next.
Maybe if you weren't quite so fat, I could understand what you said. Next question. Now, and this is the thing is like, everybody comes up with these stupid fucking rules about who they want to be where and when and why. And Dawn for press secretary, get the fuck out of here. Okay. You want to see press secretary, press meetings that you would pay to watch. Hi, how are you all doing? You suck. That is the topic of this press conference. You suck. Next,
who we got here from OAN and Newsmax? Y'all are the only ones that get to ask any questions. Right. All the rest of you sit down and shut up.
Oh, we kicked OAN and Newsmax out. This is gonna be a short press conference. And I take Alex Jones for press secretary too. I see you, Chad. But look, this game that the internet plays, where we're going to dig up esoteric people for esoteric reasons and be like, this person would be the best VP. Like, get out of here. None of that is happening. Stop it. I know. You look back at 2016 and you think to yourself, but we leaned Trump into office. And you didn't, but okay. But also, even if you did, I'm pretty sure you didn't meme Ben Carson into being in HUD. You didn't meme Sarah Huckabee Sanders into being the press secretary. All right, this didn't happen. And stop acting like that is the case. It's just, there's not going to be a day where every cabinet position is held by an internet ownage guy, right? Sam Hyde is not about to be Secretary of Defense, no matter how much you may or may not want that to happen. It's not happening, okay? Though it would be hilarious to see him try and give press conferences in which he tried to declare war on Hassan Piker. I will grant you that would be amazing. It's just not coming.
So again, that gets back to, like, certain appointments are going to be strictly, purely political, and I think that's the biggest thing that people who haven't been inside politics, like really, really inside politics, don't get. Is like, a lot of this stuff doesn't happen by accident, and democracy really is a farce. Like, once you figure out why certain candidates run unopposed, even though you feel like they're really terrible and they should be opposed, it's not because there's nobody that wants to oppose them. It's because the apparatus won't allow anybody to oppose them. It doesn't matter how, like the amount of money that you have to conjure up to even get yourself in a position to oppose some of those people. Yeah. Like, you'd be better off doing like literally anything else with your money and your life than trying to get into that spot. So like
Cornyn, right? Like, we're not getting rid of that guy till he dies. Okay. He makes a lot of Texas ranchers very happy when he votes on things that they care about. You will never get rid of John Cornyn. He is a piece of human garbage, and it would be better if he was put in a trebuchet that could fire him into the moon. I don't even need the sun. Just shoot him at the moon. That's fine. As long as he's off planet Earth, we'll all be better off. Still not coming. All right. he plays the right kind of politics. And by the way, he not only plays to Texas ranchers, he plays to national GOP. And having ever spoken to the state GOP, they are a giant bunch of cucks to the national GOP. All right. And this is your local GOP too, except for California.
Welcome to
where,
Kentucky Republican politics.
Yeah. This is your local GOP too, with the exception of the California GOP, who the national GOP seems to have just written off entirely, so they kind of do whatever they want. Now, that might be true in New York too, but I am mortally certain that it is the case in California, because the California Republican Party will show up and be like, well, have we considered the benefits of gay sex? And I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, what you're talking about there is why Mitch McConnell will still be elected even after he's literally a corpse. Like,
oh yeah,
they're not. He hasn't had an actual. There have been candidates who will run a write-in campaign, and my dad was like, I've voted for the write-in guy the last 3 times that Mitch has been up for re-election. And he's like, but it doesn't matter because Mitch is going to take 90% of the vote no matter what, because and that's only because 10% of the Republicans who are showing up just vote none, and they're not actually voting for a write-in guy, and the Kentucky GOP allows it to happen because he greases all the right palms, and it is purely strictly political, and to intelligent people and the libertarian types, it doesn't make any sense because it's hard to grasp the sheer ignorance of how politics works at its inner workings. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, once you understand how decisions are made, it's the most retarded fucking process on the goddamn planet. But this is what rules us.
So the problem that people have continuously with just about everything is pretty well summed up is don't assume they have the same objectives as you, because they don't. All right. You think to yourself, oh man, but just imagine what we could get done if we waylaid both the House and Senate candidates that would actually support Trump, and then we could actually get some stuff done, this, that, and the other. That's not the objective. All right. If you're thinking to yourself, hey, the ATF is like the most unpopular organization ever, so obviously we could do something about that, but that's not the objective, right? There are many objectives involved, but that ain't it. And so this problem is this massive self-centeredness we have in the country that is just like, but I want this, therefore everybody wants this, which is why nobody can get a handle on things like incrementalism, because we're basically all adult children at this point, right? Oh, somebody needs to just do it, right? And that's not popular. That taking your time doing something with intent kind of thing. You're just supposed to become president and pull out the presidential magic wand, which probably looks like this pencil, and then you hominis dominus go away, and then everything changes, right? And that is the way people behave. Specifically, people who tell you that's not how they behave that way, and it's ridiculous, right? And I for the rare time where I will say so, the internet has made this substantially worse, right? There used to be a functional understanding that, hey, not everything is going to change in a heartbeat because we won an election. And you can complain that is why the boomers lost everything all you want. But what they didn't do is throw a temper tantrum because while the entire planet was panicking over a cold, one guy did something, I'll grant you, relatively stupid all the way around, not the least of which was not shooting Fauci out of a cannon into the sun before it ever happened.
Yes.
Yes.
Understanding incrementalism in what's being done and how to get stuff done. like Vance is a really good step in the right direction with what he represents and just kind of who he is and like where his backing is and stuff like that. Same for Matt Gaetz. Like there are good ones there. And I don't want to see any of them run. Like I don't want to see any of them in the VP spot. I don't want to see Rand Paul in the VP spot. I don't want to see Massey. I don't want to see Gaetz. I don't want to see Vance. I don't want to see any of the good ones in a VP spot because, like you said earlier, like that's effectively the end of your career. Like it's VP, and if you're really, 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 really fucking popular, then president. And that's not even a guarantee because especially if you're
Bush Senior, right?
Right.
That's the last time.
I mean, like you can say Biden, but they didn't pick him in 2016. They didn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah, and for a reason, right? And look, you can tell me Biden all you want. I think I have said enough publicly about the 2020 election that at this point, had they put a sock puppet up there, the sock puppet would have won for all the reasons that Biden won. All right. Pretty sure that's a mulligan for how it's actually going to work.
Well, I'm like if you look at Gore in 2000, there was nothing good about Gore. Like,
no,
he was the only thing that Gore had working for him was he was coming off of Clinton, who for some fucking reason was like really popular. And so like riding Clinton's coattails was literally the only thing Gore had going for him. Outside of that, he was about as interesting as a wet sponge. Maybe not even a wet sponge. Like I think a wet sponge might. Yeah.
Don't talk shit about wet sponges like that.
Like, it like Gore didn't, and he still doesn't. God, every time he does any kind of a public speaking thing, he still gives off all of the same vibe that he gave off then. Like he's just not an impressive person. I mean, fuck.
No.
Vice presidents have been the butt of jokes for forever. Dan Quayle, Biden was just the butt of every fucking joke for 8 straight years. Dick Cheney, even though like you definitely wouldn't make that joke to his face because he would literally shoot your face off.
Right.
There were a lot of Dick Cheney jokes. Like vice president is not necessarily taken seriously, and so you don't want one of these like guys who's in a really good spot already to make incremental change and to kind of be the next generation of who's going to be sort of running some shit. You don't want them in that spot.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure it's not just even an on paper question of whether or not people understand how politics works, just any understanding at all. Like specifically, lots of the internet seems to see vice president more akin to Prince than they do vice president. And it turns out, no. Yeah.
It's like I said before, like the vice president is not who they're picking to appeal to the average voter. It's who they're picking to appeal to the people who make the decisions. Like who's going to be the one that
actually under that pretense, under the pretense of the only other calculation that should exist, and specifically to piss those people off, Trump should hold his VP pick until like October, right? Like Halloween. And then you know what? I volunteer. I'll go be VP. I won't do anything, right? I'll just show up in the Senate and be like, you people are retarded. We're going to have like a 12-hour admin pause just to piss you off. All right? Good talk.
I do want somebody to debate Kamala Harris, though. For whatever else you may think of Pence and how useless and flaccid and faggy Pence was, he did a really good job of making Kamala Harris look like an absolute fucking retard.
That's not hard though. That's not fair.
Right. I mean, it's a low bar, but still, I do want somebody.
We need to see it again. That's the important.
Yes, I do want somebody that's going to do it again. Like, and I said in 2020, like, I want to see Mike Pence walk out on the stage and be like, I'm exhausted. All of this COVID shit has been really hard on me. I'm a tag out. Tulsi, you're in. Just roast the pig again and let her have at it. But that would get you a little too excited, and some of your audience might get a little worked up by that. So we'll steer away from Look, that one.
If we're gonna do that, all right, can we just cut to the chase and get the mud pit? All right.
After the debate, I don't even think we should have an election. I mean, roll these two motherfuckers out on a golf course. Let them play 18 holes. Winner takes all. Fuck it. I don't, like, why are we even?
At this point, you know, they can arm wrestle or just whatever. Really, right. Any competition will do.
Carrie Lake's one of them that's been floated around. What's the chick in South Dakota?
I'd take Carrie Lake simply because I think I'd rather see Mark Lamb in that Senate seat than Carrie Lake. And I mean, just to end that discussion in its entirety, that would be fine.
I had a buddy that we were talking about this the other day, and I was like, I really don't want it to be Carrie Lake, but I do think she would be a good pick. And he was like, what's your problem with Carrie Lake? I was like, I don't really have one other than, like, most of her appeal is strictly the fact that she's a woman and she's loyal to Trump. Like, she doesn't really bring a lot to the table outside of that. And I find it's just,
welcome.
I don't know.
Welcome to what happens when you take a popular reporter and shove her into politics. Yes, she's very popular there, right? And other than that, she's fucking school marmy. She's obnoxious. She's, just why are we entertaining this thing? And it is because, of course, we are coming ever closer to idiocracy.
Right. And that, like Hunter says, she hasn't done anything. She hasn't actually done anything. She's been a part of a whole lot of stuff, and she says a whole lot of stuff, and she gets the base worked up, but she lacks the credentials. And I think that's kind of my problem. Like I want a former governor. I want a former senator. I want somebody that at least fits the spot. Like, and maybe that's the statist in me, but, and maybe that's my, years. Maybe that's my years of being very deeply entrenched in GOP politics, but I do want somebody that at least understands the fucking job. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if the president doesn't understand the job or not. It's such a, there's so many other people and other branches of that, so many fingers that are in that are actually making those decisions. I mean, fuck. We saw Biden on day one, as soon as he gets sworn in, sit down and sign 43 or 46 pieces of legislation. This motherfucker didn't even know what he was doing. He looked like he was spaced out of his fucking mind from day one when he sat down in that chair and started signing shit. You can't tell me that the president actually means anything. So I don't care if it's Trump or Vivek or somebody that's, wildly over the top and flamboyant and says all the right things and all of that stuff. Cool. VP needs to not be that. Like, they need to actually, be a political figure that, can play the game, because it is a game. And that's another thing that people don't understand is the extent to which it is really just a big fucking game.
Oh, yeah.
And understanding how to play the game is the most important part of the game.
Well, there's your why it can't be Carrie Lake, it can't be Vivek, right? Because Mitch McConnell will be a literal corpse, but still running the Republican side of the Senate, almost exclusively as a mouthpiece for the various people who donate largely to the Republican Party, because that's what he's most concerned about, right? In the world of who gets their way, right? That, and, dependent on how big your tinfoil hat is, the CIA. And so Which of the internet's favorite celebrity toys is going to have a good relationship there? Right? I mean, who is going to walk out, sit down next to Mitch McConnell and go, so we should definitely get things done because we agree on anything or see eye to eye on anything, right? And look, for those that want Vivek as VP, most of the arguments you make say he should be chief of staff. All right, just so you know. All right, those are the arguments you're making.
Right. It's the ones that they want shouldn't be in that position. Like it's just, again, I keep beating this same obviously dead horse, but VP is not that thing.
It ain't that.
Yeah, it's not what you want it to be. Just look at Joe Biden for 8 years. Like,
yeah,
his only job was to just sit in the Senate and not let shit get out of hand. And he had, been in it for 40 years, so he could at least manage that much. Like, what was the Obama quote? Like, don't never underestimate Joe's
ability to fuck something up.
Right. Like, he just had to sit there and not fuck it up. And he did fine for 8 years. Like, shit moved through that needed to move through. Shit didn't always move through that maybe didn't need to move through. Like, you want a very just purely political figure in that slot.
Somebody boring is probably actually good for this, but so in the world of, if we're just going to burn it all down and hold that VP spot till like October kind of picks, then fine, start picking your favorite internet personalities, because the internet mostly just wants to be entertained. But if that's the case, I want somebody who's more entertaining, right? Like, put Keemstar there, right? Like, make Keemstar the vice president. If there's anyone who can manage a room full of retards, it's probably Keemstar. Also, the content's going to be hilarious, right? So if we're going that direction, let's just go all the way that direction.
Right. If you're going to turn the whole thing into a complete clown car shit show, don't stop short with Vivek.
Yeah.
Because he's going to actually take it seriously and probably try to do a good job in a position that he is wildly underqualified for. Go full shit show and just like blow the whole fucking thing up and make it obvious how much of a joke it really is. And then it gets to be on display for everybody. Like, either we need to do it like professionals and try to hold together some semblance of make shit work the way that the game is rigged for it to work, or fuck that. Let's go all the way to the other side and just put on full display how fucking stupid this is.
Yeah, if you're going to go with the burn it all down, then,
burn
it. Don't stop with the Vivek, right? Again, would be way better as every cabinet position one at a time, burning it down. But just the most meme-ish figures in existence, right? Go find one of those guys who, like, I don't know, told the cops to go fuck themselves and got away with it or something, and make that guy the VP, right? Just because, hey, that energy you brought to that encounter, that's what I need over here. All right, just when you walk in, like, just you guys suck. That's it. See you tomorrow. Guess what we're gonna do tomorrow, right? But the thing is, Trump's never gonna let that happen,
right? Because Trump himself is still trying to play the game professionally. I think second time around, he will understand the nature of the game better, because like, he came into this as a complete political outsider. Like, he didn't get that it's a game, right? Like, yeah. And you could tell from the way that he just generally conducted himself and the things that he tried to do in his first term. He didn't understand the nature of the game. And that's like one of the things that I tell people whenever they're like, oh my gosh, why did this happen in this, political realm, whatever. I'm like, once you understand that the game is rigged, now you're ready to play the game. But you like step one to all of that is you have to acknowledge it's all just a big elaborate game. And now you need to know the rules of the game so that you can play it. And Trump didn't he didn't know the rules. He didn't even understand that it was a game. Like he thought it was just like, you are now in charge. So it's like running a business, and it's not.
Yeah, I hate to give Shapiro anything, but he very clearly did think people would just send him bills and then he would sign them, right? And that was just going to work out. And then that didn't happen at all.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Hopefully for those who are listening that, maybe don't have a lot of party politic experience, you've learned a little bit from this. I do want to talk about fireworks safety a little bit. Maybe not the safety side of it, but the lack thereof. What's the closest encounter you've had with like something, or do you actually have like I've got all my digits still, so I'm good. Yeah,
they're all still there.
What's the closest encounter you've had with a fireworks incident that made you a little bit of pee dribble down your leg?
I was really young and throwing M80s, and one popped about this far away. It was a little bit further than that. It was not comfortable, but light cook off a little. Wow, that fuse is going fast. Get the fuck rid of this thing.
I have a M80 story. My brother, I don't know why. So I'd been away at camp for the entire week. I'd gone to summer camp, and I come back, and I don't know why, but my parents had bought my brother a pack of M80s, and he's out in the yard just like blowing shit up with them. Throws one, it bounces and goes right onto the edge of the wheat field. And we hadn't had rain in about a month and a half. So the wheat field just poof, up in flames, and it takes off. Like the fire just takes off, spreads. And he comes running in the house, and he literally, this is my first day back from camp. Like I just come in, drop all my bags and stuff, and I sat down to check my emails to see if any of my friends had emailed me while I was gone, because that was a big thing, when I was a freshman, sophomore in high school. Had to check my email. So anyway, I'm like sitting at my dad's computer, and my brother comes running in the house. He goes, "I set the field on fire." And I just turned around. I go, "Shut the fuck up." And I look out the back door, and all I see is flames. I was like, "Oh, fuck.
You did.
He did set the field on fire." So I take off running out the back door, and we always kept 2 5-gallon buckets of water for the dogs to drink water out of, like right there by the back door. So I just run out the door and grab one bucket of water and throw it on in front of me on one edge, and then just take off running down the edge of this flame, stomping it out as I go. And I got a little over a quarter of the way around where it was burning before the fire department showed up and hosed me and the entire field down. And then I got to spend a little time sitting in an ambulance, getting checked for smoke inhalation, and I coughed up black shit for a few days, and that was a lot of fun. So that's my M80 story. We were not allowed to have fireworks again for 3 years. My brother, dad was like, "No fireworks, nuh-uh, not happening."
I mean, is he wrong?
Yeah. My brother probably shouldn't have been. So this is the same brother that cut the end of his finger off on the 4-wheeler. The sprocket would pop off from time to time. And so when the sprocket would pop off, he just reached down there and push it back on. And he missed, and it rolled his finger into the chain.
Off it goes.
He actually had the wherewithal to put it in reverse and back himself out instead of just ripping the end of his finger off and pulling it out. So, some credit to him. But yeah, I mean, this is also the same kid that wrecked 3 4-wheelers and tore his hamstring, broke his collarbone. He was a disaster waiting to happen when we were younger. He's grown up a little bit, not a whole lot, but a little bit. He does
enough that he's not currently dead.
Right. He's still alive. Barely. He bought a motorcycle a few years ago and then laid that fucking thing over. So maybe, him and anything that's dangerous shouldn't be mixed. Granted, he runs the farm now, so
which brings us to the real point that the first rule of fireworks safety is alcohol.
Drink lots of it. Is that?
Yeah, there you go.
Then you don't feel it when.
Right. First, you don't feel it when something goes wrong. Second of all, there's lots of fluids in you. So if you get lit on fire, hopefully you won't be that flammable. That's why you should drink beer, not diesel. All right. And when I say diesel, if you're unfamiliar with the product, there's an alcohol called diesel that is very flammable. So don't drink that on the 4th of July. That's the safety tip. Don't drink diesel on the 4th of July.
Lighting off 10 5-inch mortars at the same time, fleeing the launch area. We knocked most over and set the marsh on fire and bombed the pump house for the well. That's so my
Well done.
My nearest miss, closest experience, it was, I think it was 2014. Yeah, because I had come home from Pennsylvania for the 4th of July because it was a long weekend and we were off. So my now ex-wife and the kids met me in Louisville at my aunt and uncle's house. Now me and my uncle went and just loaded up on like all of the biggest, most badass fireworks that we could find. And we were going to put on a show because I think my kids, so that would have been 10 years ago. So my kids would have been 4 and 5. And then my cousin had a newborn that was I don't know, maybe 18 months. So like we're going to put on a big ass fireworks display for the kids and really light it up for them. And we get close to the end, and it wasn't like the big grand finale one, but it was one of those that would like shoots a big.
Working on it.
Yeah, we're getting there, right? And it's one of those that shoots like a big monster fireball up in the air, and it explodes, and it's really cool. So we light it, and we get out of the way, and the fucker goes 6 inches out of the tube and hits the ground right in front of us. Yeah, I'm like maybe 10 yards away. My uncle is closer than that, and I'm like, oh fuck. So like, what else am I supposed to
frag out?
Right. It's too late to run, so I just went and just like covered my face, hoping for the best. And like out of the corner of my eye, I can see my uncle, and then I just don't see him anymore. Like he's just surrounded by light. I'm like, oh fuck, he's dead. So yeah. So all of this clears unscathed. Nothing touched him at all. He was fine. He was already fucking deaf, so he didn't even realize like it popped.
No problem at all.
Like you're right. The lights were the only thing that gave it away for him. He didn't even cover his face or anything. He was just standing there like dumbfounded. I had like a little scorch mark on my shorts where something like fired and hit me. Yeah, about that big. A nice little scorch mark on my shorts. Otherwise, I was untouched. We were totally fine. We finished out our fireworks show for the kids, and it was all good. But holy shit, that was there for a split second when all I see out of the corner of my eye is my uncle standing there, and then he's just engulfed in
white
light. I'm like, oh, he's dead. This is definitely going to be a fireworks show that my kids remember when their uncle got burned alive by the big one. Whew. That was pretty scary. I mean, it was after the fact, it was really fun, or it was really funny, and more funny for me now because he's still like, he has no idea what happened. He was like, he had been drinking most of the day. He's deaf as fuck. Like he was just kind of spaced out, and like the whole thing happened, and after he was just like, oh shit.
It's amazing how many stories are a lot more fun after nobody dies.
Right. Ignorance really is bliss, apparently.
Man, now they see that the thing is in the world of
reserve.
Well, that's important, right? You need to have the stack of tall boy steel reserves, or it's not the 4th of July. All right. You need to understand this is how it works. The thing about the 4th of July in general for a lot of years of my life is that I grew up in California. And so while there were M80s when I was really young, there were not M80s by the time I was in my mid-teens or so. And mortars had been outlawed since, I don't know, the 80s or something like that. And shit, they outlawed Roman candles because California burns down every year, and they were getting mighty tired of it burning down every year on the 4th of July. And so clearly the answer in peak California fashion is to outlaw things.
Oh, that's why you've got all your fingers, because like for your formidable years, you weren't even allowed to have anything fun.
Right. Which, why I'm such a raging asshole about banning things. It's like, do you have any idea how many of my neighbors' houses I could have burned down? No. Right.
I think the best one with my brother. We've got some cousins that do a big fireworks show. They have a big 4th of July party every year and do a big fireworks show in the evening. And they like park this big ass trailer, and they have everything like sitting on the ground, and then they'll like set it up on the trailer and they fire it all off at once, and it's real coordinated, and they do a great job. They put on a hell of a fucking show. One year, one of them accidentally bumped one of them. Like, they set it up there, they light them. As they're like backing away, they bumped one of them. It fell over, shoots, hits all the other stuff, sets a bunch of stuff on the ground off. Like, it looks like a fucking war zone down there by the tree line. Like, hell yeah, this is fucking awesome. All of them, like all 4 of them who were setting shit off, they just take off running into the woods because they don't know what else the fuck to do. Because like, you don't know what's gonna pop next. So,
yeah.
you can see flashlights run just fleeing out into the woods. That was funny as shit.
Get out of the trees.
That was the most memorable one. Like, they've had some really impressive displays that they put on and blow up some really big fun shit. But the one where all of them are just running through the woods trying to not get nuked is the one that I will always remember the most. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, so this is the thing that the school marms of the world don't understand. Something needs to go wrong for it to be particularly memorable, right? Like, if you sit out there, what are those stupid things? The flowers, right, or whatever they are. You light it and it spins on the ground, right? If you just sit there and you throw those things for 3 hours, you go to bed and you're like, fuck, was it even the 4th of July? Right. So something somewhere, somehow needs to go the right amount of wrong, right? Like, ideally nobody dies and the property damage is minimal, but there should be some.
Right, at least have a good Roman candle war and somebody get a little bit of a burn on them. Like,
right.
No, we don't necessarily need to lose eyes or fingers, but like, let's have somebody get scorched real good, and so we all have something memorable from it. Specifically the scar.
Right. That hole in your pants, is that from the 4th of July? Yes. God damn it.
Right. And then you got good stories to tell from it too. Like, no good stories come from everything going perfectly right.
Yeah, hey man, I went to work and all the work was very doable, and it was a pretty chill day. Cool story, bro.
Like I said, they set off some really impressive displays at my cousin's thing. The one that everybody remembers the most is when they almost blew themselves up. Like, nobody remembers the shows that went off without a hitch and were just massive and impressive and cool. It's the one where they almost all died that we all remember most fondly. And maybe that's the takeaway from the stream tonight is do epic shit. Just try not to die in the process.
Live through doing epic shit. That's the thing. That's what you need to take.
And if you narrowly live through it, that makes for an even better story.
Right.
We'll toast you on the next one. Don, you got anything coming up? Anything to plug?
I am once again making content. It is exclusively on Rumble because
YouTube hates you.
Oh man. Well, look, man, at least we're past the point where around, I think, the time we met, where I would show up in your channel and you'd get a strike within 7 days. So I don't know. That's better, I guess.
I might start downloading your shit off of Rumble and posting it to your YouTube since I still have access to it, just to see what happens.
It's gonna get banned. That's what's gonna happen.
Test a couple of them. Find some of the less spicy stuff. Start easy.
It's slow roll production at the moment. No promises, but that may or may not change soon. However, Yeah, for those wondering what kind of thing might be holding that up, stuff like, when I do this and this down here starts to happen, I need to fix this. Okay.
Oh yeah, you're one of those like high production quality types. I just like roll with a dark garage and my Roseanne blanket on the back of the couch here.
High production quality types. I don't know if I'd go that far. But like, also, if that blanket was just continuously in the shape of a dick, I feel like at some point you'd move it.
Yes, this is true. Johnny from Peddling Fiction, he makes fun of me every time that we do anything because he says it's the couch from Roseanne. Like you're renting out your garage to the producers of Roseanne to make new episodes.
Is he wrong?
I gotta pay the bills somehow. What the fuck do you want me to do?
Hey man, look, dear multi-million-dollar production companies, if you would like to rent the studio for ridiculous sums of money, that would also be okay.
I have 2 separate living room scenes set up right here and a bedroom scene. You can do all kinds of shit in here. Like
you're about to be a porn studio.
Oh God, I wasn't hoping. I wasn't hoping for it to go in that direction, but you know what? I mean, whatever pays the bills. It is what it is. I won't be participating in any of that. My wife would definitely divorce me.
Well, cameraman is a job.
We'll talk about that on another stream. Not cameraman for porn. No. Let's just end this now before it gets worse. All right.
There it is, chat. You heard it. He was a cameraman before.
I'll be back tomorrow night with Matt Erickson. We were supposed to do it last night, but he had some shit come up. We're going to be talking about balancing your real life with online and trying to lean more towards the latter than the former. And then in a couple, so I'll be completely off next week. Taking the kids to go see my mom and dad and hang out on the farm with my brother and see if I can get him to blow some shit up, or at least just not tear anything up. And then I'll be back the following week with Kruptos to talk about the administrative state. And then the one that I'm really looking forward to, I've been trying to talk him into doing this for probably the better part of 2, if not 3 months. I've got James Gentleman, and we're going to talk about base gays and how some gays actually hate all of the gay shit and are not total fags. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I love James. He's a great dude. And so we're going to talk about some of that. So I got a bunch of stuff coming up. It helps that I'm working like 6 days this month. So I got a lot of time to do shit, and I'm going to take advantage of that time. So
doing all of it.
I'm going to do it all. We'll do it all, except for the filming porn on the bed back there. I sleep there sometimes.
I mean, you just don't say that out loud on the internet.
God damn it. All right. Anyway, that'll do it for tonight. I will see all of you, hopefully all of you, tomorrow night when I'm joined by Matt Erickson. Not Don. You're Don.
Don Erickson. Yes.
God, you can tell I started drinking early tonight. All right. I'm out. Later.